So the crochet bikini starts with making the chain. For demonstration purposes, I'm just going to make the chain quite short. So we'll get straight into the main body. First instruction is to double crochet into the third chain from the hook. So we count 3. 1, 2, 3. When you think about a double crochet, the height of a double crochet stitch is 2 stitches. So the fact that you're counting back 3 is kind of like instead of having to chain an extra 2. So here's my double crochet stitch, and you can see that it is starting to form a very baby triangle. You'll notice that it says to do 2 double crochet stitches into the third chain. So we've just done 1, gives us 3 stitches. So the way that we count the stitches and we read our crochet is from the top, and you look at these V shapes. So that's 1 V shape, that's 2 V shapes, and because we have a little crushed one over here, that's a third one. So for row 2, it says to chain 2. This is my first double crochet, and then this is my second double crochet into that same hole. Because the chains here count as a stitch, your last stitch is kind of crumpled and it's folded over at the end. I wouldn't stress too much, as long as you can kind of increase and decrease through adding stitches in the same hole so that you kind of get the right number. 4 stitches here, so we've only increased by 1. So every time that we finish a row, we actually turn our work, and all that means is you kind of flip it that way. I would think of it as like a 3D printer, which is a funny term that my friend came up with when I was teaching her this pattern. So just think about it as going back and forth. And the instruction is to do 2 double crochet into the next stitch. I'm going to go into my next stitch here. So it says double crochet until the end, which just means putting 1 double crochet stitch into each of the stitches from the row below. At the end of row 3, we should be on 5 stitches. So we've got 1 stitch here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and our 5th stitch is just a little bit collapsed, but it's here. Now for row 4, now when it says into each stitch as opposed to the next stitch, so it's this one and not the next stitch. So I'm going to do 2 double crochets into this. That's 1, and then 2, and then I'm going to do 2 double crochet stitches into that next stitch until the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then a little collapsed one at the end, 9 stitches. And now we're ready to start row 5. Okay, so I've chained 2, and I think you know the drill by now. We're gonna do 2 double crochet into each stitch. So that means that we're going into the same stitch that's connected to our hook, right? Because it's not the next stitch, it's each stitch. You're not going to ruin the entire thing if you slip up a couple of times. The reason why it will look like you have 3 stitches at your first one, which you can see it looks like that here because I've got this little collapsed one, 1, 2, 3, and they're all connected to this hole here, is because the chain is connected to this. You can start to see a little fanned out triangle shape. Going to double crochet into this next stitch twice. The following stitch, or the next stitch if you will, twice. And then the instruction says to double crochet to the end. It just has 2 double crochets at the start, and I'll just meet you at row 10. But just so that you don't feel like I've just abandoned you, we are going to do the start of it together. So we're doing 2 double crochet stitches into the next 2 stitches. You might have actually clocked by now that by doing 2 into the next, we're counteracting the fact that that stitch attached to our hook has been missed. And I feel like that helps with the shaping, so it's not really that helpful for like adding increase, or it's not supposed to serve as a decrease. It is literally because I think if you don't want to put like a trim or an edging around your bikini top, it genuinely just looks better. Find that it says to chain 2, and then that we are double crocheting to each stitch until the end. So if that tells you anything, it's that we are not increasing, we're actually trying to maintain this count. So row 11 is a really good opportunity if you are behind or forwards in your stitch count to kind of balance that out and adjust. You can add 2 or more double crochet stitches to increase your width and catch up to that stitch count. We have just finished row 13 where we made some increases, but let's say that I forgot and I lost count. This is where it really helps to have your stitch marker. I like to mark it every like 5 or 10 rows, and it doesn't really matter as long as you kind of know why you've put that there. So if this is row 1, then this is row 2, and you just separate it like that, and it will just tell you where the next ridge is. This is row 10. Now we're coming to rows 16 to 18. That's 3 rows that have the same instruction, and essentially you are going to be increasing by 2 at the beginning of the row. So I've got my chain 2 here, and it says to double crochet into the same stitch. So I'm no longer using that stitch. I'm doing 2 double crochets into the next stitch, which means I should look like I have 4 posts, 1, 2, 3, 4 on my hook. I need to do 2 double crochets into the next stitch, a double crochet until the end. So this for me is row 16, and when I turn my work to start row 17, I'm just going to do that exact same thing. And I will meet you at row 19. If you're looking at row 19, it says the chain 2, and then we're going to do a double crochet into the stitch on the hook. So with this one, it's a really similar instruction to what we've been looking at before, but we are actually going to be increasing even more. So here's the 2 double crochet into the next stitch, and we're going to do 2 double crochet into that. So that's really nothing new from what we've been doing before, and we're going to double crochet until the end. But when we get to the very last stitch, we're going to do 2 double crochet into that. So here's 1, and then here's 2. And I'm going to see how it looks against me. It's supposed to be tailored for a A to B cup. And so if I want it to start here, because the trim adds quite a substantial amount of length, I would happily leave it here, but it very much depends on your personal preference. And be aware that the eyelets of the trim actually serve as a purpose that the strap will feed under. So let's say I want to add 2 centimeters to this, 2 rows to create 2 centimeters if you wanted that length. So this pattern is supposed to be easy to customize.